Milano is a unique city, united in its passion and love for football, but divided in red and blue. And unlike other city rivalries, where you can draw a line between the two sides, to support Inter or Milan is more like a calling. Fathers support Inter, sons support Milan. What makes this unique situation possible is yet another unique situation, which brought us here today. The amazing SAN SIRO. Join me as we honor one of the most influential stadiums in the world of football and look at its amazing story as well as some of SAN SIRO's greatest moments. Imagine for a second, it's 1925 and Milan's 16-year-long club president, Piero Pirelli, yes, it's his company that puts tires on F1 cars, but more importantly, it's 1925. And Pirelli decided AC Milan should have a stadium that would reflect the club's origins. So he took it upon himself to build a stadium inspired by the English stadiums at the time. It took Pirelli 5 million Italian lira and 13 months to build a stadium exclusively for football, with a 35,000 capacity near the Ippodromo del Trotto. This was a rarity at the time, as most Italian football clubs played on multi-purpose public stadiums, recognizable by the athletic track that surrounds the pitch. As the stadium was Pirelli's gift to the club, he named it SAN SIRO, after a saint who built a church in the area. The first match played on it was none other than the Milan derby. Sparks were flying even though the game was technically a friendly. Milan scored 3, but Inter took home the honors and scored 6. At the time, Inter played at the Arena Civica. It was a small multi-purpose 10,000 capacity stadium that is now known as the Arena Gianni Brera. Inter outgrew the small stadium, but due to the city's layout, they couldn't find a place where building a huge stadium would be feasible. In 1935, AC Milan sold the SAN SIRO to the city of Milano, who then decided to expand the stadium by adding the curves in between the 4 stands and bumping the capacity up to 55,000 spectators. After a long time of searching and debating, in 1947, Inter and Milan agreed on sharing the grounds. Inter agreed due to the lack of other options, and Milan agreed because splitting their rent in half seemed like a pretty good idea. Before we go into both clubs' greatest moments in the temple of football, I have to mention the 2 major transformations the SAN SIRO went through. The first transformation came in 1955, when a second level of stands were added on top of the existing structure, making the stadium's capacity 85,000. Apart from the second level, the stadium got encircled by ramps, which spectators used to get to different sections of the stadium. In 1980, the city and the clubs decided to rename the stadium to Giuseppe Meazza, after a legendary player that played for both sides of Milano. 10 years later, in 1990, the SAN SIRO went through its last major transformation. That year, Italy was hosting the World Cup, so the SAN SIRO, or the Giuseppe Meazza, was expanded again by adding a third level to the stadium. It now had 85,700 seats. The striking columns, which lead to the third level, is now maybe the most recognizable feature of the SAN SIRO. I could spend hours just talking about SAN SIRO as an architectural masterpiece. But the SAN SIRO is far more than just a building or a stadium. So let's continue our trip down memory lane and take a look at some of the greatest moments for both Milan and Inter on this holy ground. Seeing as AC Milan were the original owners, we will start with them. In 1989, AC Milan faced Real Madrid in the Champions League semi-finals. After a hard-fought 1-1 at the Bernabeu, the Rossoneri completely blew Real Madrid away at the SAN SIRO. The game ended 5-0 for AC Milan, and they went on to win the Champions League against Steaua Bucharest. If you ever wondered what was the biggest goal difference ever in the Milan derby, it's AC Milan's 6-0 win over Inter back in 2001. This is one of those pictures that defined football. It came during the 2005 Milan derby. After AC Milan went 3-0 up, flares were thrown onto the pitch, and one of them even hit AC Milan's legendary keeper, Dida, now onto Inter. One of the greatest Milan derbies took place in 1949. Inter were the underdogs, so when AC Milan found themselves leading 4-1, it wasn't surprising. But what followed certainly was. Inter was able to fight back and not just come back level, but win the game 6-5. To this day, it is one of the most impressive Milan derbies ever. The 1989 Inter is known as the Inter of records, as they were unstoppable that year. 5 games until the end of the season, they played their only rival for the title, Diego Maradona's Napoli. Inter took home their 13th title. In 2009, Inter had maybe its greatest football team ever. That year, they won the treble and beat AC Milan 4-0 at the San Siro. This is one of the most impressive Inter wins over AC Milan in its history. Just a year later, Jose Mourinho and his side managed to overcome the biggest hurdle, Pep's Barcelona. Inter beat Barcelona 3-1 in a game that can only be described as a forever classic. If you're enjoying the video, leave a like and subscribe to help me reach 500 subscribers. Back to the video. As we see, San Siro hosted some of the most iconic games of football ever, and it will forever be an essential part of both Milan and Inter's identity. But they weren't the only clubs that found glory at the San Siro. Feyenoord was able to clinch the European Cup title at the San Siro against a strong Celtic side. The Swedish striker Ole Kindvall scored in the 93rd minute of the match and brought Feyenoord its only European Cup in history. In 2001, San Siro hosted the Champions League final between Bayern Munich and Valencia. The game was full of surprises, as both sides had their chances to take home the win. However, after both Bayern and Valencia missed their penalties in the dying moments of the match, the winner was to be decided by penalty shootout. Both sides managed to miss their first 2 penalties, and it was Oliver Kahn who tipped the balance in favor of the German giant after saving Maurizio Pellegrino's shot, handing Bayern their 4th ever Champions League title. In 2016, San Siro hosted yet another Champions League final. This time, it was an incredible game against Real and Atletico Madrid, and after 120 minutes, it was time for penalties. Both sides scored their first 4 penalties. Juan Fran stepped up for Atletico and hit the post. That miss probably haunts him to this day. Cristiano Ronaldo stepped up for Real Madrid, and the rest is history. Have I missed your favorite San Siro moment? Let me know down in the comment section below. Let's now take a look at the greatest moments and occasions on the stage of international football. By 1934, the eyes of the world were all looking at the San Siro. It was the biggest stadium in the 1934 World Cup, and it hosted 3 games, most important of which was Italy's game against Austria in the semi-finals. Italy won 1-0 in front of 45,000 people, and then went on to lift the World Cup in Rome after extra time against a strong Czechoslovakia. Fast forward to Euro 1980, and the San Siro was again the biggest venue, and again hosted 3 games in the tournament, all of which came in the group stages. Just 10 years later, Italy hosted the 1990 World Cup. This time, San Siro hosted 6 games, the most important being the quarterfinals between Czechoslovakia and West Germany. It ended as a 1-0 win for Germany. San Siro and the Juventus Stadium in Torino were the only 2 venues for the first ever Nations League in 2021. This was the first time the San Siro hosted an international tournament final, which is quite unfortunate. But Rome is the nation's capital, so it's only natural the Italian government wants the finals and big games to be played there instead of the San Siro. With such a rich and glorious history, we have to ask the question, can anyone compare? There is no city in the world, apart from Milano, that can pride themselves in having 2 football giants and only 1 stadium. London has many clubs and just as many stadiums. Istanbul has 3 powerhouses and 3 houses. The only city that comes relatively close is none other than Rome, with both Roma and Lazio sharing the Stadio Olimpico. The Olimpico, just like the San Siro, went under extensive renovations for the 1990 World Cup. It could be said that the Olimpico has a higher international status than San Siro, as it hosted the 1990s World Cup final, but the uniqueness of San Siro and the impact that both Milan and Inter had on football and the world makes San Siro just as important, if not more. Not to mention, Roma and Lazio have 5 Serie A titles between them, while AC Milan and Inter have 38, making San Siro the most crowned stadium in Italy, with even more titles than Juventus. Other than Roma and Lazio, there are 4 more clubs at the top of Italian football which share stadiums. Hellas Verona and Chievo share the Marcantonio Stadium, and Genoa and Sampdoria share the Stadio Luigi Ferraris. But none of those clubs come close to AC Milan, Inter, and the amazing San Siro. There is no place like it in the world, but through the years, the San Siro suffered and decayed. Let's go back to 2023 to look at its current state. You have to remember, San Siro is the property of the city of Milan, and the clubs just rent it for match days. Both Inter and AC Milan have separate training and HQ facilities. The city of Milan unfortunately doesn't take care of the stadium as it should. San Siro is both a monument to football history and a crucial part of the club's and city's identity. Yet the San Siro still has the same seats from the 1990 World Cup. That was 33 years ago, so it's only normal that the plastic seats lost color and look like they have been pulled out of some old guy's basement. The toilets look like they were imported from the USSR and haven't been touched since. Years of neglect and bureaucratic nonsense keep the clubs from being able to make any changes or renovations to the stadium, which is why both clubs have tried moving out of the San Siro and build their own ground. From the club's perspective, it makes perfect sense, but from the perspective of a neutral football fan, I just cannot imagine football, let alone AC Milan and Inter, without the amazing San Siro. I, for one, don't want to see the San Siro go, despite its obvious flaws. We can only hope maybe one day the Italian bureaucracy machine will slow down and finally put the time, effort and money into the San Siro that it deserves. It's a place where history and memories were made, a place where hundreds of thousands, if not millions, fell in love with the beautiful game. The amazing San Siro, a temple of football passion.